1991. A 29-year-old former meat salesman is running one of the most profitable brokerage firms on Wall Street. He has a yacht named after a Gordon Gekko character. He has a helicopter. He has a staff of thousands. And he has absolutely zero idea what he's doing. Legally speaking, by the time the FBI catches up with him, he's laundered tens of millions of dollars, destroyed hundreds of companies, and stolen from the very people he promised to make rich. This is the real Wolf of Wall Street. And trust me, the movie left out the worst parts. Let's rewind to 1987. Wall Street is basically a religion. Greed is good isn't just a movie quote. It's a lifestyle. Young guys in bad ties are getting rich overnight, and everyone wants a piece. Enter Jordan Belfort, born in Queens, raised in the Bronx, not from money, not from finance. His parents were accountants, normal people, the kind of people who clip coupons, not stock certificates. Belfort starts out trying to be a dentist, then tries selling seafood door to door. Neither works out, so naturally, he does what any ambitious kid does in the 1980s. He walks into a brokerage firm, turns on the charm, and convinces them to give him a job. He lands at L.F. Rothschild, a legitimate, old-school Wall Street firm. He's learning the ropes. He's got the suit. He's got the pitch. He is ready. And then, Black Monday hits. October 19, 1987. The stock market drops 22% in a single day. The worst single-day crash in history. L.F. Rothschild collapses. Belfort is out of a job. First week in finance. Perfect. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of giving up, Belfort finds his way to a small firm on Long Island dealing in penny stocks. Not the glamorous stuff you see on TV. Penny stocks? Tiny, obscure companies worth almost nothing, trading for literal cents. And here's the thing about penny stocks. The commissions were enormous, up to 50% per trade. On Wall Street proper, you'd get 1%. Here, you make 50 times more per sale. Belfort is a gifted salesman. We're talking about a man who once sold a stranger ice cream on a cold day.
Oh, really?
He picks up the phone. He starts calling, and he is devastating. Within months, he's making more money than he ever imagined. And he thinks, what if I just scaled this up? In 1989, Jordan Belfort co-founds Stratton Oakmont. The name sounds like a centuries-old British financial institution. It was invented, on purpose, because perception, Belfort understood, was everything. Stratton Oakmont was not, technically speaking, a normal brokerage. It was a boiler room. 100, eventually thousands, of salespeople crammed into a loud, chaotic office, cold calling strangers and selling them stocks, hard, relentlessly, until they said yes. But the real genius, and the real crime, was the scheme underneath it all. Let me explain it simply. It's called pump and dump, and it works like this. Step 1. Stratton Oakmont quietly buys a huge chunk of a tiny, worthless company stock. Cheap, because nobody wants it. Step 2. Belfort's army of salespeople calls thousands of regular people, doctors, dentists, retirees, small business owners, and tells them this stock is the next big thing. A sure thing. Get in now before it's too late. Step 3. All those people buy. The price goes up, because demand goes up. Step 4. Stratton Oakmont sells all their shares at the inflated price. They make millions. Step 5. The stock crashed back to nothing, because the company was always worth nothing. Step 6. The clients lose everything. Stratton Oakmont does not care. Rinse. Repeat. For a decade. Now, here's what made Stratton Oakmont particularly insidious. The sales scripts were masterpieces of manipulation. They weren't just selling stocks. They were selling dreams. The script would start friendly, a chatty introduction, some rapport building. Then came the pitch, delivered with total conviction. I'm not asking you to bet the farm here. I'm asking you to make a smart decision with a small amount of money that could change your life. If the client hesitated, look, I understand the skepticism. Smart people are skeptical, but let me ask you this. Can you afford not to be in this position when it takes off? It was weaponized psychology, And it worked on smart people, doctors, lawyers, people who absolutely knew better, because Belfort's guys were that good. At its peak, Stratton Oakmont had over 1,000 brokers. It was generating $50 million a year in commissions. Belfort personally was making, conservatively, $250,000 a week. Let that sink in. A week. And the spending matched it. Belfort had a 167-foot yacht, named Nadine, after his first wife, which he kept after marrying his second wife, which tells you something. He had a helicopter he crashed twice. While under the influence, he had a mansion in the Hamptons, a fleet of luxury cars, and a drug habit that would make a rock star nervous. His office parties were legendary, or infamous, depending on your perspective. Dwarves were thrown, marching bands were hired. A chimpanzee was once brought in on a Monday morning to boost morale. Just a normal Tuesday at Stratton Oakmont. Meanwhile, regulators were starting to notice. As early as 1992. The SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, the cops of Wall Street, was receiving complaints. Clients who'd lost their savings, people who couldn't get their money back when they tried to sell. Pattern after pattern of suspicious activity. The National Association of Securities Dealers, basically Wall Street's self-regulating body, fined Stratton Oakmont multiple times. Belfort paid. Shrug. Kept going. In 1996, Stratton Oakmont was kicked out of the NASD entirely. Most people would see this as a sign, a very loud, very clear sign. Belfort opened a new firm the next day, named it differently, kept the same scheme, because when you're making $250,000 a week, consequences feel very far away. Here's the thing about schemes built on other people's misery. Eventually, someone talks. The FBI had been building a case since the early 1990s, quietly, patiently, collecting testimonies from former brokers, tracking bank accounts, following money trails through shell companies and offshore accounts like the world's most depressing treasure hunt. And Belfort had made it complicated. Deliberately. Tens of millions of dollars were being funneled out of the U.S. through a Swiss bank, through a relative's accounts, through elaborate offshore structures designed to make the money disappear. At one point, Belfort recruited his wife Sant, a British citizen, to open Swiss bank accounts in her name to hide the cash. He moved the money in bags, actual physical bags, stuffed with cash and carried across international borders, which sounds very cinematic, and is also a federal crime. Many federal crimes. Actually. By 1996, the walls were closing in. The FBI executed search warrants. Former employees started cooperating, and in 1998, Jordan Belfort was indicted on charges of securities, fraud, and money laundering. Now here's the moment that defines him, depending on how you look at it. Faced with decades in prison, Belfort cooperated. Fully, he wore a wire. He gave up names. He helped the FBI build cases against his partners, his brokers, and his associates. Over 20 people were eventually convicted based on his testimony. Was it loyalty to justice? A genuine turning point? Or just a man who understood negotiation? You decide. In 2003, Jordan Belfort pleaded guilty. Securities fraud, money laundering. The potential sentence was 30 years. He got for BELFORT served 22 months in federal prison, which, for orchestrating a decade-long fraud that destroyed thousands of lives, is a number that invites some uncomfortable questions about how the justice system values white-collar crime. He was ordered to pay $110.4 million in restitution to his victims, the 1,513 people whose savings he'd vaporized. As of the last public reporting, he has repaid roughly half. The victims, many of them elderly, many of them still waiting, have been told to be patient. And here's the part that makes people genuinely angry. After prison, Belfort wrote a memoir. It became a bestseller. Martin Scorsese turned it into a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio. The film made $392 million worldwide. Jordan Belfort became a motivational speaker. He charges tens of thousands of dollars to teach people his sales techniques. The very same techniques he used to defraud them, He has a podcast, a course, a personal brand. The man who ran one of the most destructive financial scams in Wall Street history is now selling you a masterclass in persuasion. Sure. Now. To be fair, and this is where we have to be honest, Belfort has publicly acknowledged his crimes. He's called himself a criminal. He expresses remorse. Whether that remorse is genuine or a very well executed rebrand is, again, something you'll have to judge yourself. What's harder to argue with are the numbers. Over $200 million stolen from everyday investors. Thousands of families impacted. Hundreds of companies used as shells and discarded. An entire generation of Stratton Oakmont brokers who learned to sell the way Belfort taught them and took those skills elsewhere. The real legacy of Stratton Oakmont isn't the yacht or the helicopter or the movie. It's the blueprint it left behind. Boiler room operations still exist. Cold calling scams still target retirees. Pump and dump schemes moved to cryptocurrency. The names changed. The mechanics didn't. And that's the uncomfortable truth about the Wolf of Wall Street. The story didn't end. It just got a new costume. So next time someone calls you out of nowhere with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and they will, ask yourself one question: who's getting rich here? And is it you? Now you can spot a pump and dump scheme before it spots you. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more financial disasters explained in plain English. Share this with a friend who thinks Jordan Belfort is a role model. Do them a favor